just as another human being. You just sort of give him a nod and a smile, kind of like, how's it going or whatever. And that was it. Mr. Lee at the beginning was sitting at the very front of the bus, or near the front of the bus, and my son was sitting at the very back of the bus, the last row just in front of the washroom. And when they stopped for the smoke break, Mr. Lee took that smile and nod as an invitation at some point to go and sit with him, so he changed seats. And then about 20 minutes later, attacked him out of nowhere. And,
that's how these schizophrenics work. Being a large radio show, we run into them, and they'll take any little cue to decide you're the devil or you work for some secret group and you've got to die. And I've had some schizophrenic stalkers. That's one reason your story particularly touched me. And they're inherently evil people. I mean, they call it psychological or mental, whatever. They're a demon.
I agree.
And that's the end of it. But please continue.
My son had no escape route. He was in a window seat at the very, very back of the bus. Mr. Lee was blocking the aisle. But when he was initially attacked, he was stabbed in the neck and the upper chest. And I guess just the adrenaline from that first one or two stabbings had Timothy up and out of his seat, and he actually jumped over Mr. Lee and put himself in the aisleway. Mr. Lee was so focused on his rampage on Timothy that everybody else on the bus was able to get off of the bus. I know there's a lot of judgment being thrown at these other people that were riding that bus, but by and large, an awful lot of them had no idea what was going on because they were sitting forward. All they heard was that there was a fight at the back of the bus. They had no idea that there was any kind of a weapon involved. The individuals probably very close to where this attack was occurring would have seen the weapon, and they would have been trying to get women and children and everybody else off.
Yeah, this caught everyone unawares. I understand that. I mean, I'm just still, you see the stories about a raped woman lying in the street, in one case Canada, for 4 hours bleeding and then later dying. Or, I mean, I'm not saying I'm some hero. One time I walk out of the bathroom, this woman's been choking for 2 minutes. They're saying dial 911, and I had to push people aside, and they got angry. I did the Heimlich and saved her. It's because you're supposed to sit there now. My whole issue is, but I mean, regardless, I think in the past we've become pretty domesticated. I would guess in the past on a bus partially full, somebody may not have saved your son, but this guy wouldn't have been able to go on as long as he did. And unfortunately, I think folks need to just understand his mind, exactly what happened next. Well,
yeah. I don't know what would have happened if anybody had intervened. Perhaps there would have been a lot more people that were killed too. And in that way, Timothy's being hailed as the hero because he did allow everybody else the time and opportunity to exit the bus. But from that initial couple of stab wounds, it happened very quickly because Lee was focused on destroying my son. He proceeded to decapitate him and continued his rampage for 5 hours. Almost 5 hours. I believe it was 4 hours and 48 minutes in total. All of the other passengers are now off of the bus. There was a second bus following, and that bus pulled over to offer assistance as well as a long-distance truck driver. They barricaded the door shut to keep Mr. Lee on there. The RCMP arrived, the police, and Mr. Lee taunted everybody with my son's head and dropped it in the stairwell. He went back and further ravaged my son's body, removing any and all of his internal organs. He when he was apprehended finally many hours later, he had my son's nose, tongue, and an ear in a baggie in his pocket. Some internal organs were thrown onto the front dash of the bus. He was in the process of trying to remove one of his feet. He cut off everything that you can think of that could be cut off, and he took everything out of his body, all of his organs. He ate his eyes, and he ate at least 1/3 of his heart muscle, as well as other tissue. Mr. Lee was observed during this attack, cannibalizing my son and smelling and licking his fingers.